Are you really as knowledgeable about Nullscape as you think you are? In this video, we're about to find out once and for all. Nullscape is filled with so many goofy interactions, random Easter eggs, and unplanned mechanics that make it very funny at times. In this video, we're going to go through 50 of the most random useful facts I could possibly muster. Yes, 50. That's double my usual amount. You're welcome. We'll be discussing goofy Domasp Easter eggs, unintended interactions with enemies and tiles, crazy in-game glitches, and so many other aspects of this game that you've likely never even thought of or seen. How many of the 50 do you already know? Strap in, because we're about to find out through rapid fire Nullscape facts. Let's go. First, Telefragger has a weird interaction that you have to specifically position in order to experience. At high graphic settings, Telefragger has a pulsing effect around him that is constantly visible. There's nothing wrong with this, and it adds to Telefragger's visibility. Thing is, if you somehow position your camera inside Telefragger, meaning the effect now covers the entirety of your screen, it distorts vision in a way that is incredibly jarring. I've almost fallen into the void just by seeing this effect alone. It's so random, and when it does happen, it completely throws you off. Is this even intended? The next thing is the first of many weird mechanics that occur after you're no longer alive in the game. Apparently it's possible to bonk on dead teammates. To be more specific, if someone got killed by Husk or otherwise has their body lying on a tile and you happen to charge or dive into it, for instance, while trying to escape being at a daycare with a ton of babies, it'll be treated as a wall and you're gonna bonk. This has never personally happened to me before, but it is definitely one of the most random things I've heard about in this game. If you're unlucky, this could definitely kill you. Has this happened to anybody? Well, what do you know? It's possible for Malfunction to, well, malfunction. If you die while Voidbound operator is ticking, but not dying to him specifically, there is a chance that you'll continue to hear VBO ticking after death. This also can happen if you enter the beacon while it's ticking. This continues infinitely until the level is completed and was also a glitch still in the game back before it was put in as the replacement for Litany. That signifies that this has not been fixed for a long time. Wonder if it ever will be. Aside from this, there are two other bugs. Number one, two Voidbound operators can be on your screen at once, one hidden behind the other, forcing you to survive both at the same time. Number two, sometimes taking an attack start earlier than normal if you're standing still. Weird, right? This next one I find hilarious. The infamous bonking mechanic has caused so many void deaths and is the largest part why the void is the most lethal quote-unquote enemy in Nullscape. But if you've toyed around with bonks with helmet or glider, or if you played while completely and utterly delirious like I have, you discover that you can chain bonks. Why? I have no idea, but it's so unbelievably random. Look at these clips where I bonk several times in quick succession for literally no reason. It's sort of a jump in a way, especially if you're a glider main like me, but it's so unnecessary otherwise. If you somehow knew this already, I'll be genuinely shocked. There's something hidden about Highrises that many people, including me, haven't known about this entire time. Highrise golden gifts grant double your current gift yield. What? If you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Why would you ever collect from Highrises instead of regular tiles without this? Thing is, this isn't disclosed. You only discover it by tracking the exact gift gain you get, which you don't do much while you're moving so fast. Now you know, you better use it. If you ever somehow make it into a run with the developer or someone who is otherwise able to modify a lobby with exclusive commands, you'd know that there's a hilarious pop-up you can see at the bottom of the screen. You're so used to altar pop-ups, metal pop-ups, and XP or trip coin pop-ups, but what about Chud? Yeah, that's right, this game is calling you a Chud. This happens to signify that a lobby's progress will not be submitted to leaderboards. I find this to be a hilarious touch and is one that I saw while doing an 100-player lobby in my server with Ghosty Pet. Apparently it used to be cheater, but they changed it to be funnier, and according to Ghosty, he has no idea when this was done. Funny, right? Some of the later tips have some related goofiness from this 100-player run, by the way. Watch on to see. Now, our lovely focus of the thumbnail and death screen taunter Domasp is the focus of this fact. He can actually kill players. If you are in LRS and attempt to visit Domasp, the run ends as a result of the press of a button, as shown in the screenshot. Who would think to visit Domasp during LRS? This is incredibly niche. Even still, I recommend using it as a last laugh. If you know you're about to die to the void and you're in LRS, just visit Domasp and have him end the run instead. Gotta prevent that void death counter for going up somehow. Like, come on, we have to get back at Domasp taunting us at the death screens in some way. The second thing concerning Domasp is the presence of probably one of my favorite retro games of all time. You can play Minesweeper through Domasp. Whether you're waiting on their host, dead, and need something to do, or just want to play for fun, you can access this game through codes to play at any time. I love attempting the largest one and seeing how far I can go, as I'm very experienced with Minesweeper. This is another one of those changes which, though random, is probably one of my favorite Easter eggs in the game, period. And onto one of the goofiest and most questionable things. The devs have archived an old version of the game, Patch 0, which is accessible through codes. This is a much different version of the game that has old sprites, forces you into diver, and has much different mechanics. It's very clunky, honestly, and honestly is a really funny challenge if you want to see how far you can go. The old baby sprite is hilarious, Bell genuinely seems lethal, and some jumps are impossible without timing your dive perfectly. And other times you can't even jump out of your dives properly. Getting far this mode is the true RF farm. I'll likely be going for this someday. Tria orbs, as useful as they are becoming a lot weirder the more I look into them. Aside from being able to literally kill you by stopping your momentum while evading enemies, or more notably, evading Voidbreaker swords, it can also prolong your bonks. As shown on screen, the bonking animation is preserved if you bonk into a Tria orb. This doesn't appear to be a huge issue, as you can still jump out, and if anything, it can be treated as a last Hail Mary to avoid falling in the void. But it's a weird interaction that you'll only run into if you're lucky, or unlucky if you compare it to the Best Patch 5 edition, for instance. The wanted mains watching are gonna love this one. The disabling of abilities is a very common trope in this game, whether it be from the flesh debuff or metals acquisition, but wanted is an oddball, in a good way. Its momentum stop ability cannot be taken away in any circumstance by the looks of it. This applies to both the aforementioned ability disabled mechanics. Although wanted does not have a traditional quote-unquote ability, that makes it the only class in the history of Nullscape, aside from prisoner since it has no abilities, to be virtually unaffected by flesh and to be able to pick up metal with basically no downsides. This means having a wanted main in your lobby who can focus solely on metal and flesh tiles is so smart. In my past videos and shorts, I've discussed the presence of secret pedestals underneath the ground that you can access with the use of Invisicam, featuring the now removed nil and a hidden pedestal, which we speculate to most likely be the ball sprite that testers and devs were able to use as an emote of some kind. But there's another pedestal. If you use spirit to go to the farthest rock shown on screen, which you can see through the spirit indicator outline, you can access a hidden pineapple pedestal, named with question marks and having a 0 death count. I wonder what this thing is representing. It's a lot less vague and appears disconnected from any enemy. What do you guys think? This is something that I personally had a lot of joy looking into. The various fauna in the game, whether it be the Scuttleblooms, Manta Rays, or Realm Weaver, are all in various areas of the lobby. I decided to test how many of them actually have collision. Very random of me, right? Well, I tested it anyways. Realm Weaver does not have collision, despite absolutely looking like it does. Some of the Scuttleblooms do, the stationary ones, whereas the ones which fly around next to the fence, they can be walked through. Lastly, it appears like none of the Manta Rays do. Now you know. What will you do with this information? Probably absolutely nothing. Unless you want to try and spirit fling into Realm Weaver's portal, I guess. This one has stumped me for the longest time. You know the altar chance roll Mart and Springer? The name naturally implies that the altar added a temporary Mart and Springer, but if you've taken the time to actually check, this is not what happens. Instead, Mart and Springer gain speed buffs that are not at all disclosed until you randomly die to one and figure it out yourself. I have so many clips of me getting absolutely annihilated by Springer as a result, and it's so frustrating. The name is very misleading, which is funny, but creates many situations like these. I do not see enough people talking about this. The XP system in this game is incredibly wonky by the looks of it, and is not disclosed much to the player, beyond what level they are and how close they are to the next level. You'd imagine that since lobbies with less people are more difficult, you'd get more XP, right? That's what makes the most sense. But no, instead, XP gain appears to be significantly higher with the more people you have. For instance, I've gotten hundreds of XP per round in 50-player lobbies, as high as 750 to 1,000. The only thing that seems to make sense is that XP scales by amount of gifts collected. Aside from that, getting good XP is very odd. Plus, I heard that people who subscribe to Fox's Rock get good at the game faster. Huh? You didn't hear that from me. Something that I've been itching to talk about is the old sprites for this game. If you're a newer player, you've likely seen none of these, but here's a ton of them. You've already briefly seen some of the old Patch 0 sprites. Aside from that, we have a bunch of more recently scrapped sprites. This includes old sprites for things like Grace Wings, Ice Skates, Sport Shoes, Shield, and more. A lot of these got modernized. We even have old mechanics like Real Wings, the Alter, Revive, and others. Enemies used to have different designs too, most notably Voidbreaker. There's a lot more in this department. Have a look at the wiki. I just wanted to showcase a lot of my most favorite ones. In terms of level generation, there's a lot of goofy interactions that happen with high-rise tiles and pylons, the first of which is the surprisingly likely possibility of pylons spawning basically overlapping with each other. This can lead to activating two at the same time basically, and can take off some of the difficulty. As for high-rises, certain level generations allow you to see under them. This clip shows it off fantastically. Sometimes it can even get in the way of gift collection. And the other thing is in the tops of the high-rises. There's a lot of random props up there like small staircases and raised parts which you can walk into. What are these for? Is something planned to be at the top of the high rises to reward you for getting up top? I'd like to see that sometime. Now this has bothered me for a while, and it's a really questionable thing that I can only describe as a glitch. If you join a lobby late, you have to stay there until you've been there for at least 50% of the lobby in order to get any badges. Completely fair. But when a lobby earns a badge and the game informs you that you are not eligible, it is incredibly misleading. I have had 2 instances at least where the game has told me that I am 1 level away from getting a badge, I proceed to beat the level and beacon, and the game still says I need 1 level. What? I literally had a conga line lobby, for instance, that only got the badge because I survived a 200 or something gift LRS, and the lobby died on the level that would have been when I earned it, according to the inaccurate level progress, which devastated me because the game misled me. Can anyone else relate to me? The inaccuracy can be very frustrating at times. This is something that has been raising my eyebrows for a long time. In the lobby, a bunch of enemies and even non-enemies like Void Implosions in the Void have death counter pedestals counting up at all times. It's enjoyable to watch them count up, and along with listening to the sound effect. But if you're observant, you'll notice that there's not a pedestal for everything. For instance, Razor Bloom, Operator, and Oblivion do not have death counters, regardless of death count being tracked in each player's individual settings. Why is that? For real though, why? If we can have Vimps, why not Razor Bloom? Maybe eventually this will be fixed, who knows? There's another thing that is not disclosed to the player that kind of just happens, and you have to react to it without really knowing what happened. Ever notice how you've gained an extra double jump for a total of 3 out of nowhere? This is because high rises, whenever you collide with a surface that is considered a high rise, will give you an extra double jump until you've touched a non-high rise tile, meaning that even if you're floating in the air or on grind rails for a ton of time before touching the ground, you retain that third jump that entire time. Weird, right? Because of the odd nature of this, it's unlikely one will realize this without really studying gameplay. Something that makes Chaos Mode and Chaos Altars so special is that they bypass one of this game's most central mechanics, max caps. This means that you can end up getting so much more of something than intended. This includes multiple cadences, multiple operators, more than 2 bigger blasts, more than 2 minefields, having mutually exclusive curses at the same time like Tweak Dodds and High Rollers, or Bombardment and Ballet, the list goes on. If you haven't played Chaos, I highly recommend it, as it allows for a level of gameplay you literally cannot get anywhere else based on these things. When it comes to badges, people tend to focus on popular ones like Voidbound Scarf, Voidbound Fox, Subspace Scarf, and Conga Line, but other ones, especially the badge that unlocks Prisoner, ends up getting glazed over. As such, a lot of people end up missing the hilarious Prisoner goofiness that the devs implemented. For instance, a ton of the upgrades just bluntly say nothing, including the shield and others. One of them, which applies to both Wanted and Prisoner, is very special. Miniature Hourglass's tooltip is a goofy rainbow of just pure nothing. In a more serious one, Blossom calls you unworthy if you try and get it. I enjoy the personality that all these Easter egg tooltips provide. I'm sure a lot of people watching who love to use their abilities a ton have encountered this already. It's possible to accidentally get caught inside certain wood tiles and planks. Although this counts as a surface and restores double jumps, it can often trap you and get you killed if it happens out of nowhere. This is another one of those things that is just so unbelievably random, but when it happens you get a good laugh or opportunity to dog on your teammates. There are many tiles this can happen with, so definitely be aware of it so you don't get cooked. You can restore your double jumps in so many random ways. Aside from the usual platforms, jump pads, grind rails, and the like, you can also restore double jumps in all the following ways. Number 1, the windowsills, lights, ledges, and specific slopes of high rises. Number 2, the side of some passage tiles. Number 3, somehow landing on Springer. Number 4, collecting metal even if it's in the air with all your double jumps used already. Number 5, void shields since they restore all your mobility. And 6, literally any surface at enough of an angle. All of this means you aren't fully dead if you're out of jumps. Now onto some questionable metal interactions. You may have seen these yourself over time. Metal can spawn above statues and altars. This can sometimes make it completely unreachable depending on mobility upgrades and class choice, which I think is wild, especially because you don't gain the double jump until you already have metal, meaning divers for instance probably can't get up there early game. Aside from this, if you die while holding metal, it stays above you, implying that it can be recollected. But nope, genuinely, why does it stay visible? I've died trying to reclaim it before I discovered this. Paycheck is an amazing eco upgrade that you can sometimes still proc even if you're below half the amount of players beaconing. Gotta love the hacker man's activities. If you have an odd amount of players, the minimum needed for Paycheck is actually rounded down instead of up, making it easier to attain the proc. For instance, if you have 15 people, you only need 7 beaconed, and if you have 19, you only need 9. This is something you'd only really notice if you're really paying attention, but now you know. This one looks very visually funny. Typically during a round, Springers will barely, if ever, collide with or go to the same spots as other Springers. But as collapse finishes, Springers run out of spaces to jump, so where do they go? On top of each other. This overlap is literally forced and looks very funny as you're rushing to the beacon. Imagine how crazy this would look with a ton of Springers. For instance, my only regret of the 100-player lobby I did with a ton of Springers shown on screen is not waiting to see what this would have looked like. Shame, but you get the idea. Isn't this so goofy? One interesting thing about Altar of Passage is that it doesn't quite follow the same generation rules as regular tiles. More specifically, they seem to spawn in more places with more variances and less restrictions. One of the effects of this is the possibility of finding Tria orbs, jump pads, and grapple points which are inside of a passage tile. This does not make them unusable, but it can get in the way of collecting passage gifts and does look really goofy and cluttered. You still may not see this often, but if you do, consider yourself lucky. I love when this next fact happens. You likely know that the projectiles from Guardians cannot go through tiles and will be destroyed if they ever collide with one. A funny thing that can happen if you're lucky is that Guardian can sometimes move inside of a tile, resulting in shots that can't even be fired since they instantly disappear upon being fired. This can alleviate some survival pressure if you're ever being haunted by one of these annoying guys and they end up in the floor. Payment is probably one of the most dreaded Ultra chance rolls, but it's not always bad. If you have 0, low, or negative golden gifts, you'll be very likely to see funny interactions such as 0 payments or negative payments, meaning you are given golden gifts. I have a couple screenshots of this occurring and it's always made me laugh. This takes off the pressure of Ultras with chance and can help make it more reliable to go for additional gift yield if your run is behind on eco. This is something that I personally love to see. While activating pylons, every one pylon activates more reality breaks. The more you have and the more they trigger, the more likely a special interaction will happen. If reality breaks trigger during loading, such as the moment a level is completed and the game has to load the intermission tiles, sometimes the reality break effect will remain on the screen, covering basically your entire background, and becoming what I like to call a temporary skybox that remains for several seconds before disappearing. I personally think it looks awesome and enjoy it whenever it happens. Upon the release of patch 5, Realm Weaver and Scrapmaw were very commonly mixed up with each other, and upon further research I don't really blame anyone who got confused. If you look carefully at both of them, you'll notice that both of them enter and leave the screen in a very similar manner, creating portals that, though colored differently, appear to be functionally the same. That, while also factoring in the similar designs and structures, makes them very similar, explaining why many people got confused. You may have noticed this, but shop prices are slightly odd. I did some field testing for this fact and discovered that although shop prices are in fact dependent on the amount of people you have, it only updates the prices sometimes. More specifically, the moment a level is completed, the amount of people at the time will be used for the price calculations. If someone was queued up to join and joins immediately upon the intermission starting, it seems that they'll still be included. But if someone joins after intermission has started, the price will not increase any further until the next shop is reached. Weird, right? This can create odd situations where someone is queued up, immediately leaves, and then your shop is more expensive for no reason. Uncommon, but still possible. If you've watched my emotional torture Voidbound scarf video, you'll know all about this next one. Shop pools are weird in many ways, but one of them is through the continue system. Although rerolls are free, they can be risky. For instance, if you reroll past an item you decide you want to buy, you will not be able to access it until the next shop. Even worse, if you use so many rerolls that both the pedestals are empty, resulting in an empty upgrade pool, this counts as you pressing the continue pedestal even though you never did. This can cause accidental starts, or even worse, force grade or curse choices if you're not careful. Be wary about this because though this is a random fun fact, it can genuinely harm your runs. This game has a ton of client-sided enemies, which basically means that everyone has their own version of X enemy rather than dealing with the same one. As an example, Scrapmaw is client-sided while Voidbound Guardian is not. However, here's the thing, an enemy being client-sided implies that it is unable to be seen if you are not the player fighting it. And although this is true almost entirely across the board, there are two enemies which do not use this logic, Razorbloom and Sigil. Both of these enemies are still visible when spectating if you're not alive, even though both are still client-sided. Proof is on screen. I always found this interesting as this goes against their entire concept. It's not an issue necessarily, but am I the only one that's noticed this? I really pray I'm not the only one that's noticed this. Going off of the previous fact, the other client-sided enemies are not visible if you are spectating, but one of them is a little weird in my experience. Voidbreaker is not visible if you are spectating someone else, but occasionally it is possible to hear the slashing sound cue that signifies Voidbreaker spawn. Genuinely, why does this happen? I get it crazy, but I have several clips where it's audible mid-spectate. My two guesses is that we're hearing the spawn of the Voidbreaker of the person we are spectating, either that or it's a Voidbreaker for our dead selves. Who knows? Please tell me I'm not crazy. Anyone? If you frequent Voidbound Scarf runs, you're likely very familiar with this next fact. When a lobby meets the requirements for a given badge, the people who earn the badge will show up in the chat window all at the same time. As celebratory as this is, it's not fully accurate. It's very common for some names to not show up. I have literally no idea when this happens. What I've noticed is that as long as you don't have a message saying you're ineligible and have to pack X levels, then you should have gotten it even if your name was not visible. I have personally experienced this with almost every badge I've gotten for some reason. It appears to only happen when multiple people get a badge at the same time. It's a super small thing, but is random and confusing enough to be noticeable. My endgame viewers know a lot about this one. Scrapmaw's lasers upon its spawn cover the entire screen at first glance. It looks like a lot to dodge and is very overwhelming. But ironically, even though the lasers move with you as you move up and down, they do not cover your entire screen. Through precise gliding, C-mine usage, grind rails, or other means, you can completely evade the lasers. This is rather niche, but can help if you're already at a very fast speed, avoiding another threat when Scrapmaw happens to spawn, or if you need to move past Scrapmaw to avoid contact damage. Now this glitch is one of my favorites. Invisicam is a really nifty setting that can allow you to much more easily understand what you're looking at. It's even useful for helping you discover certain niche secrets in the game. There are times Eventually the system bugs out though, and certain parts of your avatar or the world around you will begin to glitch out and remain transparent despite your camera having already moved. As some examples, my avatar's hair ends up transparent, and even the intermission lobby ground becomes completely transparent without changing. I think this looks incredibly cool, and should be its own skybox of some kind. I'm unsure what causes this aside from quick camera movement, but regardless, it's incredibly cool and is a glitch I hope does not get fixed. This one feels so uncommon that I've never actually seen it myself. Has this actually happened to anyone watching? It's possible for an unlucky alter a chance to immediately take away a jump pad that you need for Razor Bloom. By extension, there are no safeguards in place to ensure that there's always at least some jump pads if you have the Razor Bloom Greater Curse, which means that if you don't have grapple points and lose 100% of jump pads, you are guaranteed to die. I've literally never seen this in game, but there are some hilarious clips of this out there. You can mess around once the beacon spawns in many ways. First, since the beacon does not rise infinitely, it's possible to go above the beacon and effectively go into an invisible beacon since the beacon already visually ended, but you're still in the beaconing hitbox. It looks super goofy and is very satisfying to pull off. Aside from this, there is also a ledge right under the beacon that is always there that you can reliably stand on. I've only rarely seen people use this, but I sometimes go down there just to meme. Any other tiles with the same design, for example some Pasha's tiles, can be used in the same manner, as mentioned before. It's possible, and actually really common, for a false LRS proc to be triggered. If you have someone beacon early and everyone else greets, which is a really common strategy, it's highly likely that you'll hear an LRS proc if no one else makes it to the beacon. The pop-up will show up on the screen, but no shield will be granted, as the shield would have been going to the person who can't use it, as they have already beaconed, and the route would continue as normal. This also leads to LRS music being cut off in a very funny manner, almost like those perfectly cut Scream memes. Cadence instruments can be very annoying at sometimes. Have you ever noticed that sometimes instruments just won't collect? Instruments have iframes after spawning which prevent them from being collected instantly. I have a lot of clips where this has either directly killed me or required me to loot more than I'd like just to collect it, which heavily risks dying to husk. It can also directly spawn on top of you, which just happened to me recently. There's unfortunately no way around this aside from accounting for it and waiting before collecting instruments. This one is relatively well known, but do you actually know why? Not including the placeholder icons of some of the chaos selections, Mass Infection is the only icon for a curse, upgrade, or enemy in the game which is fully blank and missing. This means it's blank in the top bar but can still be hovered over. This is actually because Roblox censored this icon, preventing it from showing up in game regardless of age by the looks of it. I wonder if it will ever be re-added or changed. Lag is hilarious in Nullscape. Whenever you're lagging, it can create many hilarious scenarios. Number 1, having a bunch of enemies stacking on you infinitely. Number 2, the infamous baby spawn kills. Number 3, tiles, player models, and the ground textures not loading at all. Number 4, animation stalling, allowing you to move like a statue. There are a ton of other causes, but these are some of the funniest, most random ones. In the past, I even remember spawning in as a noob for no reason. Definitely try to avoid lag if you're someone like me with fried internet, but if you do lag, at least you might get some laughs. This next one is a very interesting detail that anyone with a keen, attentive eye will notice. Every single curse, greater curse, upgrade, and enemy has its own unique color outline that everything has, with exact hex codes to go along with them, all of which are shown on screen. There isn't a single one of these that does not share the proper outline, except for one, an upgrade. The Blossom upgrade, which is free and collectible right before fighting the Celestial, has a light blue outline instead. I always wondered why this is. This is a completely new color. Is this setting a new trend? Are more items from bosses going to get major upgrades like this one before fighting them? We'll just have to see. This next one is something my community Discord and I were very fortunate to discover. The commonality among most Roblox games and games in general is the presence of dev exclusive items. In the case of Nullscape, aside from the relatively well-known Bruiser and Foon Tester and dev classes respectively, there are also dev exclusive items. One of my favorites is the exclusive dev animations that exist, such as the ones for Kirby GG, but a much more goofy example is the presence of certain tools that the devs have access to. If you're with a dev in your lobby, don't get on their bad side or take too long to beacon, or else you might have this used on you. Something weird I've experienced has to do with Bell. I've been very naturally indecisive on whether I want the photosensitivity setting turned on, mostly because for me personally, I prefer the distortions over the vignette, but I'm trying to get used to the vignette for the sake of you guys, my viewers. Ever since then I've turned on the vignette, something started happening that I realized is a glitch. With enough bell rings, it's possible to get what appears to be a semi-permanent vignette on your screen that only goes away at intermission. Very weird and niche, and recreating it has been challenging, but this clip is proof of it happening. Is it lag, an intentional mechanic, the result of bad luck, something else? I don't know. The lobby's generation and gift count along with shop pricing naturally scales with the amount of players in the lobby up to 20 people. But after a certain number of players, the scaling basically ceases to exist, and if it does still exist, the calculations result in gift counts and prices that do not at all match the player count. For instance, it can create circumstances in 100-player lobbies where all gifts are collected basically instantly, resulting in Lab 2 being the most free curse ever, Shield being insanely cheap, buying out every single shop every time, and tens of thousands of gifts at insanely early levels, among other things. It can even result in 500 Telefraggers if you're unlucky. And lastly, for one of the most random but funny things on this list, Telefragger has music, 2 jingles to be specific, one of which plays if you have the Teledancer Chaos Curse or activate Teledancer through the Domasp where a catchy tune plays. There's also music that comes out of the TV that spawns an intermission when you have a permanent Telefragger, becoming audible if you perfectly position the camera. I love watching Telefragger dance like this and often pass my time with it while waiting. Am I the only one? And that's it. What an info-heavy video. I hope you guys enjoyed this new format, and I hope you enjoyed me blessing you with double the content. I usually do videos with exactly 25 bits of info, but since there was so much to say this time, I decided to crank it up to double the usual, 50. I like it because it doubles the value of the video and preserves the length while also making it somehow mentally easier on me during the production process. Do you guys want more videos like this? Tell me down below. I don't believe I can do this format for tips videos, as good advice requires longer explanations, but you never know. Long ultimate guides might be in the future. Let me know what you'd like to see. Quickly, while I show my lovely boosters, I also wanted to say, if you're a dedicated Nullscape viewer, I'm very glad to have you, but I wanted to let you know that I'm experimenting with uploading videos on different games, starting out with Blocktails, among others. You'll be seeing non-Nullscape videos about every other week or so. I hope they can help you enjoy some time as well through some variety non-Nullscape content. I desire to be a variety creator, and this is me pushing towards that while still preserving my Nullscape community. My weekly events in my community Discord will reflect this as well. That's it for this video though. Thank you for watching, live well and have a great day. See you in the next video.